bent, one curled on their side like a shrimp. Each has annotations in ink: scholars recline, peasants curl, merchants lean, and the somewhat ominous ghost ward pose. Historians still argue whether these poses were standardized or merely symbolic, but archaeological records confirm that different dynasties favored different resting postures. The Tang dynasty, ever elegant, prized the side curl, with head slightly elevated, while Han officials were said to prefer lying flat arms, out ready to rise and serve even in dreams. You try a few of them. Some feel theatrical. Some frankly feel like back problems waiting to happen. But there's something strangely dignified about them. As if lying still was a gesture of intention, a way to show respect to the body and to the world of dreams it was about to enter. Your guide demonstrates a position favored by Taoist mystics, a kind of meditative half-recline, with one knee raised and a hand gently resting on the belly. This posture, he explains, was believed to align internal energies, aiding lucid dreams and spiritual communication. It also, incidentally, reduces snoring. You try that one too. Not bad. You close your eyes for a moment, letting your breath match the breeze. It's easy to see how sleep for the ancients wasn't an escape, but an opportunity. Not just rest, but access to ancestors, to omens, to realms unseen. In Taoist philosophy especially, dreams were not idle images, but journeys. If you slept well, you traveled well. Your guide hands you a slim book. Inside are sketches of various sleeping arrangements from across dynasties and social classes. One bed is heaped with silk and woven bamboo mats, the corners weighted with tiny jade charms to ward off night spirits. Another shows a rustic set-up straw mat, clay pillow, mosquito net, woven from mulberry bark. You pause on a page featuring children, tiny bundles tucked